Despite the growing bilateral relations with China, the United Kingdom remains one of Nigeria's strongest allies and trading partners. Nigeria's political and economic links with Britain were forged in colonial times, and the close relationship between the countries has remained, albeit with sporadic threats to it, as was the case during Nigeria's political crisis and consequent human rights violation during the Abacha years. Presently, Nigeria is UK's second largest trading partner in Africa, after South Africa. Currently, bilateral trade relationship between Nigeria and the UK is said to be worth about £3.8 billion per annum. Shell, a British-Dutch company, owns approximately one-third of oil produced in Nigeria. Remember that oil remains Nigeria's biggest income earner, so you do the maths. In any case, the drive for improved trade and economic relations is ongoing. There are an estimated 250,000 Nigerians and British Nigerians living in the UK and about 20,000 British and dual nationals living in Nigeria. That figure is expected to grow as British businesses of all sizes are encouraged to look outward still further to export and to do business, creating jobs in Nigeria. As British Deputy High Commissioner in Nigeria, part of Laure Beaufils' duties is to build relationships and encourage investment. The first woman UK Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, Laure has a passion for empowering women and girls. She joins me on View from the Top today, and it's a real pleasure. Thank you, Laure, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
And we thank you for tuning in. Here's a biography before our conversation. Laure Beaufils has been Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria since February 2017. Previously, she was head of the UK Department of International Development in Rwanda. And prior to holding that position, she worked in various positions in the UK for investment.
A lot of people think that Nigeria is a difficult place to do business, and I think the truth is it is a difficult place to do business, but the perception is far worse than the reality in my experience. So especially right now when there's so much political will and so much energy behind reforming the business environment and making it easier to do business, I think I would like to say to investors and British businesses in particular that now's the time to come. That's the first thing. The second thing, from a more personal perspective, is that Nigeria, and in particular Lagos, has a bad name when it comes to security and criminality, and I'm sure that is still a concern, but it is far less than the perception, certainly in the minds of many people in the UK.
The UK is the fifth largest economy in the world and ranked in the top 6 globally for ease of doing business. Nigeria is taking steps to simplify processes, regulatory frameworks, institute market-friendly policies, and improve the overall ease of doing business. Is government doing enough, in your opinion, and what challenges do small and medium-sized entrepreneurs face when doing business here?
I think the government is doing huge amounts, actually, and I was just in Abuja. I met the Vice President Advisor on trade and the President's Advisor on economics, and they were telling me about all that they're doing. It is a lot. In many ways, it might be too much, and there may be a case for focusing down and narrowing down, but the ambition is huge. And if you meet such performers such as the Managing Director of the NPA or other key players in the sector making things happen, you realize that there will be change. It just takes a little bit of time, and maybe that's the challenge for investors, is to wait for those reforms to actually impact on the ground and to become real and visible for them. So I think there's loads happening, but there's a slight timeline between the reforms taking place and then what's happening on the ground.
And what can we do to encourage more inward investment into the UK from Nigeria, and in what areas?
So if you look at the surveys on investor and business confidence and issues, number one is time and time again power, and that is a real challenge. And unless power is addressed, and unless businesses have readily available power, no power cuts, and power that's affordable, then we're going to have a challenge. So that's systematically up there in terms of the top challenges. One that comes up a lot is corruption, and I think we can't overstate the importance of addressing corruption. But again, I think there's a really good story to tell on corruption, and I think in fact the Nigerian government could tell a stronger story in terms of what it's already doing, because some of the reforms we've seen are already bearing their fruits. The ghost workers that were rife in Nigeria not so long ago don't exist anymore. The Treasury single account, a massive success, one of its kind in the world in many ways, and it has saved trillions of naira. So there's a lot happening there, but certainly corruption remains a reality. More needs to be done, and it is a challenge for private sector actors.
Where are the most promising areas for increased economic ties between the United Kingdom and Nigeria?
It's a really good question. The way we look at it right now, the fields are probably in agriculture, and in particular agriculture commercialization. Number one. Number two, I would probably highlight infrastructure. And number three, perhaps health or education services as the third area. But we're looking at others. We're looking at mining, for example, and obviously I didn't even state oil and gas as the biggest one, and Shell, as you know, British company, British Dutch, I should say, is the key player in that field. But there are others. But these are the ones that we're focusing on energy on in terms of strengthening the depth of our partnerships, and really trying to act as a matchmaker between Nigerian businesses and British businesses to ensure that we can get deals and actually start delivering things on the ground.